Few words get used as often or as unceremoniously as unconditional love. It is the most powerful tool in our spiritual arsenal, and yet it can also be the most unwieldy of concepts. It can be difficult to integrate and use in our personal lives. We're often told that we should love ourselves unconditionally and that we should expect unconditional love from others. And yet we're also told to have boundaries and that we shouldn't give our love unconditionally unless certain expectations are met and maintained. Not to mention, we're faced with a world at large, which, if we're being honest, it can be pretty hard to love unconditionally sometimes. How do we fully understand, integrate, and wield unconditional love while also being human? Most often, unconditional love is spoken about in terms of the unconditional love of the universe. And many of us experience that love as the warm, safe, comfortable feeling that we get when we know that we're interacting with our angels and guides. So let's start there and talk about how your angels, your guides, the loving spirits that you work with on the other side, what that feeling of love really means to them and how they implement it with humanity. Celestial beings have somewhat of a different definition of what love is in general than we humans do here on Earth. As physical beings here on Earth, we face a number of situations and circumstances that just don't exist in the celestial planes. We experience uncomfortable feelings like hurt, sadness. We experience cold, fear, confusion, all of those kinds of feelings. And so often for humans, a feeling of love is a feeling which alleviates those. We see love in those who make us feel safe and comfortable, people that we feel make us feel good about ourselves. So for us humans, often a feeling of love is associated with the actions or the presence of another person feeling like a relief from the basic struggles of being human. For celestial beings like your angels and guides, they don't face the same kind of circumstances in their own environment. There isn't any need to feel safe or alleviated. There was nothing for them to be fearful of to begin with. That feeling of safety and comfort and love that we experience when we're interacting with our celestials, that's an energy field that they cultivate and give out to us, a psychic feeling that they send to us empathically so that we feel safe and comfortable interacting with them. I had the somewhat more unusual experience that all of my training and interaction with the angels and guides, celestial beings, all happened for me in an astral state. So I was experiencing the vibration of them more directly. For a long time, I wondered why, when everyone gets this safe and warm, comforting feeling from their angels and guides, the feelings that I was experiencing were somewhat different from that. It was something more like what we would equate to being a super fan. They were interested and engaged, always like shouting directions from the stand like you might for your favorite home team, and never being disappointed or upset, but always coming to the next game every time. It wasn't until I started being trained to generate the energy field of safety and comfort and relaxation that they were using with other humans that I really realized what the difference was. In order for physically focused humans to be able to hear and receive their messages from angels and guides, they have to be on a frequency of safety and calm and peace and tranquility. That energy field was something more like a sedative that was being used to help calm physically focused humans so that the messages could come through. For them, unconditional love is an never-ending fascination and amazement at our creativity, our free will, and our experience here on Earth. When we get off course, they're never disappointed. They just start rerouting the directions like the GPS in your car, all the while being fascinated by the individuality of your choices. And even when you're in pain or weeping and at your saddest moments, they stand back in awe at the power of your emotions and the incredible depth of the earthly experience you're creating. That is what the unconditional love of the universe is. It's unconditionally enthralled and rooting for you in all of your messy glory. You are astonishing in every single way to their broader perspective. So, how do they achieve that feeling? Even when we're not following the directions, when we're coloring outside the lines and making a hot mess of things. The truth is that there's nothing that you could do that would hurt them or undermine their validity and their sense of self-value. There's no action that you could take that would impact who your angels are or how they feel about themselves. Therefore, it doesn't impact how they feel about you either. And this is the first critical point of unconditional love. There's no condition because there's no personal value impact. As humans, we get mad or sad when we feel hurt. Our love gets diminished when we feel an unwanted effect and attribute it to another person. The closer that person is to us, the deeper the impact and the more challenging unconditional love becomes. And who is it that we are most intimately connected to? Ourselves, naturally. We are capable of hurting ourselves in way more deep ways than anyone else ever could. Hence why so many people, myself included, struggle for so long with unconditional self-love. And somewhat ironically, most of the advice that's out there says that we have to start with loving ourselves unconditionally first, or we won't have any love to give to anyone else. But beginning with unconditional self-love is a little bit like starting off playing a video game for the first time on expert mode. After all, we are our own final boss. We wouldn't expect to jump into a game and beat the final boss on the first go, so why don't we start with talking about the Goombas? Strangers really are the Goombas of our experience. Not that they're not important in their own lives and equally loved by the universe. Just that they really do have the least amount of personal impact on us. Even so, I'm sure, as you all know, if somebody is rude to you at work or cuts you off in traffic, that kind of an action can have an impact on our vibe. Each soul on this earth is having their own experience and their own expansion. There's no life path in physical reality that's wasted or useless. Being able to view strangers with the eyes of the angels was the first and easiest step to implement. As I began to see other people as a valuable co-creator rather than a reckless driver, my vibe changed from angry to curious. I was able to say, I wonder what lessons this encounter will provide for that person. Instead of being furious at the guy who shot past me at 90 miles an hour on the freeway, it was more like, wow, what a confident driver. I wonder where he's off to. Granting strangers the value and validity of their own path removes any reason to feel personally impacted or affected by their actions. If angry or rude is where they are on their path at this time, then that's exactly where they're supposed to be. And it's kind of beautiful. It's fantastic and amazing that this reality provides all souls with the opportunities to express, experience, and to grow. Truthfully, we wouldn't want it any other way. Over time, adopting this thought process actually shifts our entire vibe. You'll find that you're actually attracting fewer and fewer uncomfortable or rude encounters with strangers. After all, it's kind of hard to maintain a nasty vibe with someone who radiates unconditional love. Tier 2, the world at large. Now, you would think that this would be just as simple to implement as it would with strangers. After all, there are 8 billion people on this planet, and the vast majority of them will never be anything more than strangers to you. However, this turns out to be more challenging than it seems like it is. The actions of one person can be easily stepped away from and appreciated as the journey of their own soul path. But when many people come together and start forming psychic gesalts and having an impact on the world at large, that feels more personal. That was part 1 of wielding unconditional love like an angel here on Earth. Part 2 is on its way and is going to cover how to view the world at large with the unconditional love of the universe, as well as how to begin implementing the concept with the people who are more intimately connected to us. I will link that video in the description box when it's ready to come out, but in the meantime, if you would like, you can hit subscribe so that you make sure you don't miss it. Drop me a comment and let me know if it resonated for you, if it felt like it was worthwhile and valuable for you. Thank you so much for being here. I really do appreciate you. I make these videos in all love and alignment in the hopes that it can reach out energy-wise to as many people as possible and reach those people who could feel uplifted by it. Thanks so much again, and we will see you next time for part 2.